This is TWiT.
Don't want today's show to feel too much like last week's show where we talked a lot about Twitter. But hey,
alas,
you know what? This is just the way the news is right now. And I had actually planned on talking about Twitter today initially. That plan obviously has not changed. But the original story had to do with the NFT, Jack Dorsey's original tweet. I thought it was funny and interesting. And then this morning happened. And now, of course, we have to talk about Elon Musk again. I'm sorry, but it's kind of a big deal. So it's just our luck that the guest that I had lined up has written extensively about this over the last week or two. Owen Thomas from Protocol, one of my favorite guests on TWiT. It's really nice to have you on Tech News Weekly. Thank you, Owen.
Jason, thanks for having me.
Yeah, right on. Thank you for hopping on and giving us a little bit longer of an interview space. We're going to start with Elon Musk because that's kind of like the big news today. And then we'll take a short break and then talk a little bit about the NFT and then let you go. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Elon Musk. If we haven't already talked about him too much on this network, dang, I feel like the last couple of weeks at the top of every list of stories, his story rundowns. But this morning, Elon announced on Twitter, quote, "I made an offer," just kind of like putting that out there so succinctly and as if nothing happened. What exactly is his offer? How good is it?
Jason, I thought we had an agreement. We don't talk about Elon. We don't talk about Elon.
That should be the agreement, but I can't hold up to that.
Of course, I think the number one part of this story is that Elon loves it when you talk about Elon.
Yes, he does.
And that's why he's on Twitter. That's why he wants to buy Twitter. Yeah. It's a play for attention, but hey, we're living in the attention economy. So, so why not? He is, he's definitely not known for his patience. So he's kind of jumped ahead, as he said, to the end game here. Yeah. And straight up made a hostile offer. Now, there's some debate over whether it's hostile. The definition really is that it's something made with the, without the permission or without coordination with the board of the target company, the target being Twitter here. So I think, it is kind of textbook hostile in that regard. There is a scenario where it becomes friendly. It doesn't seem from the tone of Musk's conversation that he has any interest in a friendly offer. The other thing that's kind of odd and different here is that normally with a hostile takeover, you have a corporation that wants to merge, with that, with the target company and get some assets that that it thinks will make its business better and it's worth the pain and expense of a hostile takeover. Or you have a take private transaction, but those are typically done with management where management feels like, shareholders don't get it and they can do a better job and deal without the pressures of Wall Street by going private. This is like a mashup of those two. Elon thinks he has better ideas for Twitter and he thinks it would be better off private. So it puts Twitter in a very odd position. There's very little precedent for this kind of approach.
So what about numbers here? What is he offering? How does that compare to where the stock price, where the price was initially? And I kind of know this, but if you can tell everyone who's watching and listening, and how appealing is that to shareholders? Even if they don't like Elon, at a certain point, the price is high enough that I'm sure that's going to win some people over.
Right. So the 52-week high for Twitter is around, I think, a little over $70. Obviously, tech stocks took a beating this year, and it's way below that. Musk is offering a little over $54. So that's not really a winning price. If you look at the very recent stock history, I can see shareholders reasonably saying, hey, for a takeover, can't you give me a little bit more of a premium here and take me back to 70?
Right.
So if he's serious, he's kind of trying to lowball Twitter. I think Twitter's board has a pretty defensible position if they say that 54 is too low. I mean, I think where Musk and the board probably agree is that, all of those parties think Twitter is undervalued. The question is, does Musk have a better plan, or does the really recently appointed CEO, Parag Agrawal, have a better plan? I mean, the board just named Agrawal's CEO in November. He's barely had time to implement any changes he wants to make. So,
no kidding.
there's another defense of like, hey, give us some time with the current management.
Yeah, I'm super curious. That's one of the things that that I've been reflecting on today is Agrawal's position in light of this. And it wasn't like he didn't recognize, it was just Sunday, in fact, when he made the comment, like, distractions ahead. He had a statement, keep on pace here. We've got some distractions coming up. I'm not certain that Agrawal knew, or maybe he did, had a good sense that Elon would go this route or quite so soon. But you had to imagine, poor guy, so new to this position at the company and dealing with something that would make all, tech CEOs crumble in the face of it. One of the world's richest men basically saying, hey, I just want to buy your company and here's all the cash to do it. It puts him in a really awkward position.
It certainly does. And, keep in mind, Agrawal was CTO of Twitter.
Yeah.
So, this is all like really new to him. That said, the chairman of Twitter, the board chair is Brett Taylor, the co-CEO of Salesforce, who has been through lots of transactions. Just bought Slack for, I think, north of $26 billion. So he is no stranger to kind of Wall Street power plays and big numbers. He's much lower key than Elon Musk, but not a pushover. And and it's a pretty strong board overall. Like there's there's not a lot of fluff. I think Twitter has actually improved its corporate governance in that regard enormously from like looking back a decade ago. Is that enough though to take on one of the world's wealthiest people? I forget the numbers. It feels like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk trade off who's wealthiest from day to day.
Exactly. No matter what, in top two, and compared to the entire world, that's that's pretty powerful in and of itself. Mark Cuban on Twitter seems to be put out a tweet alluding to the fact that his assumption is that now the big CEOs at all the other big tech companies are looking into their contacting their antitrust lawyers to say, hey, what about us? Why can't we buy Twitter? What kind of weight do you put into that? Why would they want to do that when faced with a Musk takeover of Twitter?
Well, if they want to run up their lawyer bills at $1,000 an hour, they certainly can. But I think those lawyers are going to pretty quickly say, are you kidding me? Are you insane? The mood in Washington right now, Lena Khan running the FTC.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no way that Meta buys Twitter. Now, also, Mark Zuckerberg did once called Twitter a clown car that fell into a gold mine, and he tried to buy Twitter before.
Early,
so there's still bad blood between Market Street and Menlo Park there. But Google, Amazon, Microsoft, which already owns LinkedIn, it's really hard to see any kind of scenario where DC doesn't just explode at the very idea. And there's also the reality that Twitter is very popular with politicians, and there is a laser beam focus on Twitter's moderation policies. Who wants all of that headache on top of what they're already dealing with?
Yeah.
There's the antitrust issues, and then there's just the politicization of Twitter, period.
Yeah, no kidding. One question that I have before we take a quick break, and then we'll talk about the NFT stuff after the break. But what kind of an impact do you feel the company would face if they pass on this offer? Obviously things get really, really kind of crazy and cuckoo if Elon Musk buys it, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe everything's going to be great, but that's where everybody's mind seems to be jumping right now is, oh no, what happens if Twitter gets bought actually by Elon Musk? But if they pass on it, does that have an impact on the company in your mind?
I think there's certainly probably going to be, as Agrawal put it, distractions ahead. There could very well be securities lawsuits. As I mentioned, those would have a really tough, it would be tough to show that like $54 is, really dramatically undervaluing Twitter compared to where it's traded very recently. But I think there will be pressure to perform, but there's always been pressure on Twitter to perform.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg was not wrong entirely about the clown car and the gold mine. Like, this has historically not been a company that's lived up to all of its promise. People see a lot of potential in Twitter, and its story has always been about falling short of that. So it doesn't really change that dynamic. I think if Twitter disappoints Elon Musk here, well, get in line, buddy. A lot of people have been disappointed by Twitter.